For all of us. You should send help from his holy chamber. That is the base of Migdash. And help from Zion. What is Zion? Zion is Yerushalayim. Zion is a name of the Jewish people. Jewish people are called by the name of Zion. The word Zion is like the word Simon, a sign. What are the Jewish people a sign of? They're a sign that there's a God in the world. We are, a witness gives testimony in court. The Jewish people are testimony in the world that God is for real. That's why a lot of these non-Jewish places, they call themselves testimonials. Yizkar kol michosecha, he should remember all of the good things that you did on his behalf, the self-sacrifice that you've had over the years, the centuries, really over the centuries, the offerings you've made, the sacrifices you've made for the name of Hashem. And Hashem should fulfill your heart's requests. When you make good resolutions, you should be able to fulfill them. He should give you the strength to fulfill them. Then we will rejoice in your salvation, Hashem. The salvation, that's the modern term for that is Geula, redemption. You know what's the difference between redemption and before redemption and after redemption? The Rambam writes, the only difference between before and after the coming of Mashiach is, at least in the first stage of things, the only difference is, in other words, the world is going to go on exactly the same, but there's going to be one very major difference. What's that major difference? The major difference is that there won't be any more anti-Semitism. Non-Jewish people, non-Jewish governments will no longer rule over us, will no longer make laws that Shabbos is illegal, like in the times of the Maccabees, or that Bris Milah is illegal, like they want to do in a lot of countries in Northern Europe, want to make Bris Milah illegal. They say it's not safe. In the Scandinavian countries, I hear people make brisim, but very quietly. They don't publicize it. They don't want to start up with the authorities, and someone will bring a law case against them. And it's nothing new. It's been happening for thousands of years. That they seek pretexts to outlaw bris, to make kosher laws illegal, to make it illegal. In the times of the Maccabees, it was illegal to celebrate Rosh Chodesh, Shabbos. And of course, most recently, during the 70 years of communism, anybody who did any of these things was eliminated, simply eliminated. Some of you may know families by the name of Shagalov. There are a lot of them. Elchanan Shagalov was a moyel, and he was giving brisim all over the place. He was giving brisim, and then finally they arrested him. He was never heard from again. He left a widow by the name of Mariasha with 6 or 7 children, and she prevailed. And now the children of her children of her children are shluchim, literally in thousands of places all over the world. In Russia, if you were a criminal, you didn't deserve any benefits from the government, like an apartment. So she was thrown out of their apartments. And Rabbi Ben-Zion Shem Tov, some of you may know the Shem Tov family, he made for them walls in the shul so they could have an area till it wasn't heated, obviously. But at least they had a place to stay. A widow with 6 children. And now there are literally thousands of shluchim all over the place connected to Mariasha. Then that's Geula. So the Rambam says the only difference between before redemption and after redemption is called Shibud Goliath, the servitude to the non-Jewish nations. They won't rule over us. Their laws, they will not be able to prohibit us from keeping our Jewish laws. But otherwise, life's going to go on the same. But if you think about it, if the city of New York shuts down on Shabbos, it really won't be the same. But it's a miracle. It would be a miracle, but it's not. The nature of the world didn't change. Miracles that change nature are of a different sort altogether. Like they throw Avram Avinu in a fiery furnace and it doesn't burn. Speaking of which, you know that one of the plagues in Egypt was frogs, right? First plague was dumb. The Nile, they worshipped the Nile turned to blood. They couldn't drink the water. The second plague was frogs. The frogs invaded Egypt. They went everywhere. They went into their homes, they went into their kitchens, they went into their beds. They jumped into their mouths, croaking away. They jumped into their ovens. Frogs like cold, wet environment. Cold and wet, that's where they're at home. But they went against their nature and they jumped into red hot ovens. Because Hashem ordered that they should do it. In the end, all those frogs were a delicacy. They ate frogs, the Egyptians. Many people eat frogs' legs today. They say they taste like chicken. And they would eat them, but when the plague ended, the plague was for 7 days. When the plague was over, all the frogs died, and they piled up in mounds in the streets, and they smelled terribly. But the frogs that jumped into the ovens didn't get burned, and they didn't smell, and they didn't die. That's a miracle that's higher than nature. But the city of New York should shut down on Shabbos because people keep Shabbos, and everybody goes along, understands it. That's not higher than nature. That's revelation of godliness in nature. Okay, back to our chapter of Tehillim. Now I know, says King David, that you save the leader, the Mashiach of the generation, because he was the first Mashiach, and he was saved many, many times. With your might, Yesha Yumine, of your right hand. Verse 8. They come with their chariots, they come with their cavalry, they come with their weapons of war. We come with the name of God on our lips. They stumbled and fell. Then we stood up, and we're stalwart, we're still standing after all these years. Hashem is our king. He should deliver us answer us on the day that we call. Okay, back to Tanya. Now, I think it would help a little bit. I'm sure many of you have caught on to this. Try and simplify a little bit. We have levels and levels. We have a tzaddik, which is righteous. We have righteous people, tzaddikim, and we have Rishonim. Which is the opposite of good. These are righteous. This is the opposite of righteous. And then in these levels, we're trying to define what is a Beinoni. In the level of tzaddikim, we have two levels. We have better, not just better, we have complete. The completely righteous, complete. And we have incomplete. This is the tzaddik who is called, who has toiv, he has good. And this is a tzaddik who has not good, ra. Not good. You know, there was a terrible, terrible dictator in Russia called Stalin. He killed millions, more than 6 million people. Ruthless, absolutely ruthless. One day, the Rebbe was Farbrengen here in 770, and he says in the middle of Farbrengen, there's a strange thing they have in America. It's called baseball. And when somebody scores a run or hits whatever, however they would describe something successful, and everybody all the fans start to shout, "Hoorah! Hoorah! Hoorah!" The Rebbe began to chant the word "Hoorah! Hoorah! Hoorah! Hoorah!" Hasidim, here the Rebbe is chanting "Hoorah." All the Hasidim there started to chant "Hoorah! Hoorah! Hoorah!" The words "Hoorah" mean who. You know, when I was a kid, I went to Hebrew school. Then we didn't learn much. We really didn't learn too much. We learned pronouns. Who in Hebrew is he, and he is she. So who is he? And he was saying, who? Ra. He is evil. He is evil. So thousands of people were proclaiming, he is evil. Hoorah, hoorah, hoorah. They found out later that was the time, the day and the moment that Stalin passed away. And he went before the heavenly court, and everybody was proclaiming, hoorah, hoorah, wicked, evil man. Okay, so we have two levels. We have a higher level, and we have a lower level, a complete tzaddik and a not complete tzaddik. What is a complete tzaddik? What is a not complete tzaddik? We're going to have to learn. Now, similarly, in Rishayim, in the world of wicked people, we have people who are wicked, but they have good. A lot of people, we think that they're righteous, but they're really not righteous. They can't say they're righteous because they don't keep Torah and mitzvahs so well. But they can have a good life, and they can do a lot of good in the world. And then we have Rishayim who are not so good. Not so good. Now, I'm using these terms. I'm not saying the word bad. And I'll tell you why. Because we had a student in this very class who used to sit right there where Alex sits. And her name was Chana. It wasn't originally. She took her name in the middle of the class. She wanted to have a Jewish name. She took the name Chana. She's now married. 2 years ago, she got married. Oh, Naomi's on the line. Can you show your picture, Naomi? Can we see you? Show yourself. Everybody will say hello.
Naomi.
Did she do it? She didn't do it. She tuned in. She's listening while she makes the coffee.
I'm just gonna listen for today.
Okay. So she said that one day I was talking about what they call NDE, near-death experience. There are people who die and they survive. And she said, that happened to my brother. I said, you're kidding. No, it did. He was having a medical procedure or something, and his heart stopped. He was medically dead. And he had an experience. She said he could talk about it. But in the end of the whole experience, there were many details. But he was given a choice. Did he want to remain in the world to come, or did he want to come back to this world? And she said, his whole life passed before his mind, and everything he did was there. And whenever he did something nice, he was told that was good. And if he did something selfish, they didn't say that was bad. They said that was not good. And eventually they showed him, he knew nothing about Judaism, really nothing, very, very little. And they showed him a whole Torah, which he'd never seen before. And it was like shining. And they told him, if you want to go back, you're going to have to keep everything that's in this Torah. Are you willing to do it? You promise? He said, yes. And so he woke up. A similar story, by the way, happened to Rabbi Gajzinski from Great Neck, very successful shliach here in Great Neck. He also had a heart seizure or something like that, and he died. And they offered him the same thing. Do you want to stay here? Because it's very beautiful. It's very peaceful. I saw a video of a non-Jewish person who died, and he said he experienced such a peacefulness like he never experienced in his life, anything like it. He said, and he came back to life. He says, I'm not afraid to die because I know where I'm going. I know what it's like. So Rabbi Gajzinski was in that state. So we see from this that something Jewish and non-Jewish people can experience. And they asked him, well, what do you want to do? You want to stay here or do you want to go back? And he says, I'm a hostage of the Lubavitcher Rebbe. It's not for me to make such a decision. You have to ask the Rebbe. And they did. And the Rebbe said, he has to go back. I need him in Great Neck. And he woke up. He's spoken about it. Okay, so that's why I use the term not so good as opposed to bad. Because everything is an intermixture. Because you see, the fact we have levels, better and not so bad, not better and not quite so good, is also it goes on and on. In the level of good, we have better and worse, or not so good. And similarly, in not good, we have worse and even more worse. So we end up having thousands of levels of spiritual achievement. Okay, so where's the Beinoni? Somewhere in the middle here, we have to define how does the Beinoni fit into all this. The Beinoni is in between. Beinoni means usually translated the average person. So a person might think at first glance that the average person, when we say that we have righteous people and we have wicked people, and then we have the average person. So he said the righteous person, he does only good things. And the wicked person does not so many good things, or does not good things. And the Beinoni does some of this and some of that. No. This discussion now is to prove that the Beinoni isn't some of this and some of that. We have to figure out exactly where does the Beinoni fit in all this. So we said that there are 5 categories, right? We learned this. There are 5 categories here: tzaddikim and rashoyim, righteous people and not righteous people. And in each of these 2 categories, we have 2 levels. So we have 2 levels of tzaddikim, bigger tzaddikim and not such bigger tzaddikim. But they're all tzaddikim, they're all righteous. And if you're on the tzaddik level, then you're not on the rasha level. So you have to say that anybody in the tzaddikim level, righteous people, they don't do anything bad. So why are they better? What makes one better than the other? Maybe it's an internal thing. How much of their heart and soul is in it? And how far do they go? Like, you can buy an esrog for $20, you can buy an esrog for $200. How much does it mean to you? How far do you go? Do you just keep the bare minimum? You do all the mitzvahs, but you do the basic minimum, what you're supposed to? Or do you do things with beauty and with self-sacrifice? And similarly, in the negative side, wicked people. Well, what makes a person wicked? Does he have to be a villain? Doesn't have to be a villain. A rasha Anybody who is not keeping Torah and mitzvahs cannot be said to be a tzaddik. Person not a tzaddik, person doesn't keep Torah and mitzvahs, doesn't belong in the righteous side. But on the other hand, it's a very, very, very hard to judge, because a person could be leading a completely not religious life, not religious, very self-centered, but in the end, he might do something so extraordinary to save the life of somebody else, and all of his misdeeds become transformed into mitzvahs, because they all led him to the point where he could have complete self-sacrifice for God, for somebody else. And the whole thing gets transformed. So we can't say, like someone once asked the Rebbe about the Holocaust. And he said, we don't know what the big picture is. If a person leads, has a lot of suffering in life, and the end, it's good, we don't say that he had a good life necessarily. And similarly, if a person leads a very good life, and in the end ends up worshiping an idol, we don't say that he was a totally wicked idol worshiper. There's a lot of variables involved here. Okay, now let's look inside, see where we go. We don't have much time left. Always in this class, there's never much time left. So we said yesterday, page 36, that the tzaddik, Meraloi, is a tzaddik who has, so when we're talking about these levels of good and not so good, Toivle, Meraloi, we're referring to the Yetzer Tov and the Yetzer Hara. The voice inside of you that always tells you to do the right thing, and the voice inside of you that tells you to do the thing that's right for you, but not necessarily right in the eyes of others, the eyes of God. So the tzaddik bara loy means he does have a Yetzer Hara, and the Yetzer Hara is pushing him to do things its way, but he's a tzaddik. That means he's not listening. So he has an inner conflict. And he's overcoming it. And he overcomes it to the extent that we say, Shahara Shaboy is the first Hebrew lines on page 36. Hara Shaboy, kafuf l'toy. What does kafuf mean? Kafuf means bent over. Like you capture somebody and you shackle them and you bend them over. They can't stand up in front of us. So that's tzaddik v'raloi. And then we introduced the idea that we have judges. The Yetzer Tov and the Yetzer Hara are our judges. And when we have to make a decision, they are going to judge us, and that is to say, they're going to influence us, each one according to its nature. So the Yetzer Tov is going to influence us to do the right thing, to do the good thing, and the Yetzer Hara is going to influence us to do the not right thing, the selfish thing. And who's going to decide? Well, in that case, we have two judges arguing. What do you do in court? You need a third judge. And the third judge, hopefully, will side with the Yetzer Tov to decide between them. And who is the third judge? The third judge is Hashem. So we really want to be on the good side of the third judge, because the decision is going to go his way. But that's if they're equally balanced. If a person, his own inclination, his stronger inclination is to go with the selfish judge, then the third judge won't have too much say either. Okay, now we have to understand another idea now. The bottom of page 38. I'm not teaching this year, by the way, the way I usually do. Usually, always taught this chapter word by word and line by line. I'm sort of moving around amongst the ideas. So we have a new idea that we have to consider, and that is, if I am going to fall into one of these 5 categories, do I have any say in this? Is this something that's preordained? In other words, is a tzaddik born a tzaddik and he's always going to be a tzaddik? And it's a person in Russia born a wicked person, he or she is always going to be a wicked person? Say, it's not my fault. I was born with this. I love burning people's buildings. I love hurting people. My greatest joy is to beat up somebody. There was a guy, a boxer here from Brooklyn. He was a heavyweight champion. He was a wild person, though. When he was a teenager, the most entertaining thing for him to do was to beat somebody up in the street. He ended up in jail. He was a world champion boxer. So this is the question. Do we have free will or not? So on the bottom of page 38, the Alter Rebbe brings this question. It's a very important question. Am I created to be a tzaddik? Or does a tzaddik become a tzaddik? Well, that's going to remain a question. You're going to have to work it out in your life. A friend of mine, his father told me when he was a bocher, there was a wedding. And after the wedding, he came back to 770, and there was the Rebbe. It was the early years of the Rebbe's leadership. And the Rebbe said, how was the wedding? He said, oh, it was wonderful. He said, after the wedding, did they farbring? Did they sit down together and farbring? He said, yes. So the Rebbe said, and what did they farbring about? So he said, they farbring about this question. Is a tzaddik born to be righteous? Or does he become righteous? And the Rebbe said, what did you say? And he looked at the Rebbe and he said, I said he's born righteous. And the Rebbe smiled and went into his room. He didn't comment. He didn't comment on it. Because they're both true. The tzaddik, I would say a tzaddik is born righteous, but he works on himself. He works on himself tremendously. A tzaddik works very, very hard. It's not an easy job at all. And he achieves greater and greater degrees of righteousness. I'm going to say a bracha. Bracha to Adonai melech haolam, shehakol nehiyah b'dvarei. Well, here's the source on the bottom of page 38. It says in the Talmud, Baba Basra, commenting on the book of Job. Who was Job? Anybody heard of Job? Job was a righteous non-Jew. He was righteous. He was a good man. He served God with all his heart and soul. But he suffered a great deal in his life. And his friends urged him to speak against God doing such a thing to a righteous man. He refused to curse God. So he says at one point, he prays to Hashem and he says, Master and Lord of the universe, Rabbeinu Shalom, you have created righteous men. In other words, people could be born righteous. I believe all of you girls are born righteous. That's why you're here. You may have had your struggles to get here. External struggles, family, friends, teachers, and internal struggles in your own heart. Am I doing the right thing or not? But you struggle and you got here. It's a good sign that you are all right. For me, it's a big merit to be able to teach a class of righteous women. You have created righteous people and you have created wicked people. See it right there in the text. Barasa tzadikim, barasa rashayim. So where does my free will come in? If I'm created to be wicked, I'm going to be wicked. It's not up to me. It's not my fault. Oh, yes, it is. The last 9 words on the page. Tzadik v'rasha lekamar. It's not decided before you're born if you're going to be righteous or not. That's why you have to swear an oath. And that becomes the crux of your life. To make the right decisions. Yes, and Hashem knows. Hashem knows. How can it be that I'm the one making the decisions and yet Hashem knows? That's a different question. But now it's 10 after 9, and the decision is that we have to say goodbye. So it's happy trails to you until we meet again. Happy trails to you. Keep smiling until then. Someone said to me yesterday, you said if you greet the world with a smile, the world will smile back at you. I said, that's very wise. Who said that? He said, you did. I said, I did. It's true, though. Our sages tell us in the ethics of the fathers, try to greet everybody with a friendly face. Heavy makabel kol adam b'sever panim yafot. Is that good Hebrew? Yafot? Yeah. Yafos we say. Sever panim yafos. With a happy, warm countenance. Along these lines, a friend of mine one of my early teachers used to say, you should try to be the first one to greet your fellow before he can greet you back. I had an aunt. She was a bit of a character. She was a little girl. Her mother came into the room and found her sister crying. She said, what happened? She said, she hit me. She said, why'd you hit her? She says, because I knew she was going to hit me, so I hit her back first. We look at people knowing that they're thinking that they're good, and we smile at them. We smile at them first. And then they smile back. Where's my siddur? Every time we saw the Rebbe teach, he would usually take some wine, and perhaps a few ounces of sponge cake or something like that. And he would sit and teach and teach and teach and teach and teach until he was finished. And then he would take his siddur, which he always carried with him. It was a gift to him from his father-in-law, the previous Rebbe. He would open the siddur and he would say a bracha achrayna in the siddur. So if we see this all the time, that means it's an instruction. That's what we should also do. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei nefashos v'abes v'chasreinan, al kel masha barasa laha hayes bahem, nevers kol choy, baruch chei haolamim. Thank you very much, everybody. You're great. You are great girls. If you didn't get the point, I'll say it again. It's a wonderful privilege to be able to teach. Have a wonderful day. Dress warm. Don't be fooled. Dress warm in the mornings. Put your scarf back on when it gets cold in the evening. You don't want to catch a cold.
Thank you.
Have a wonderful day, everybody. Thank you all for coming.
I know, I'm gonna go watch We'll see if I eat the whole thing.
I'm gonna do that. It's only one person here, right? There's here and then there. Reverend Jessica and Mrs. Maggie. Are you level 1 or 2? 1 is here, 2 is there. What is it called? I just started this Zoom call and it's a first. What do we talk about? Here? There. Here? Level 1? Yeah. Thank you. The shirt? Wow. The necklace? Oh, it's so good. It says this is my lucky card. It's cute. Hola, Lili. I miss you. I would say I have to get the chair. Yeah.
Yeah.